Hey, how's it going, everybody? I'm going to talk about self-doubt and how self-doubt is a superpower. There's a guy by the name of Mark Manson. He's one of my favorite bloggers, writers. He has a blog called markmanson.net. He also has a popular book called The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. In fact, let me go grab that book. Boom! And this is the book right here. The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. It's a book about a counterintuitive approach to living a good life. And there's a very popular, one of my favorite podcasts of his interview with The Art of Charm, Jordan Harbinger. They talk about relationships and stuff like that. And the thing they talk about the most, or the thing that kind of struck me as sort of a light bulb going off in my head, was the idea of how self-doubt is essentially something you need to learn how to doubt yourself, which kind of sounds crazy, right? Why would you want to learn how to doubt yourself? I doubt myself all the time. And self-doubt is a superpower because it basically, essentially, what it comes down to is self-awareness, right? It's about being able to know yourself. And when you doubt yourself, a lot of the time what you're doing is you're just questioning yourself. Now, you can question yourself in a negative way, where you're like, okay, well, I'm a piece of shit, or I suck, or I'm not going to be good. Or you can doubt yourself as in, can I do this? You know, is this something that I can do? Can I pull this off? Is this too difficult for me? You know, it's like asking asking questions, although may sound negative, but from a neutral tone. You know, because a lot of the time we just go, man, I just suck. You know, or I'm weak, powerlifting, right? Or I'm not ripped, or I don't look good enough, or I'm too fat, right? Or I don't have willpower, right? It's more like, can I do this? Can I stick to a diet? Am I able to do this? Or how can I do this? It's about having that doubt to sort of sniff out your own bullshit, to sniff out all the... Because a lot of times it's one of two things. Like, this is what I mean by self-awareness. Is like, essentially we're either too low or too high. Meaning we're too low, meaning as in we're like, we think so low of ourselves about certain things. You know, negativity. And there's a positivity where people are too cocky, too arrogant, too overconfident. And somewhere is in the middle. Now the goal is not necessarily, I guess the goal is to understand where the middle is, and that there is a middle, and that being aware of sort of your own bullshit, being overconfident. Like an example where being overconfident can hurt you is in like, I guess in powerlifting, since I do lifting, is like when you squat more than you think you can, then you get hurt, right? Or in gambling, where you can really get hurt, where you're sure it's going to land on red because it was black 1,000 times in a row. It's got to be red eventually, right? Like in roulette. And you can get hurt like that because you're overconfident. And the thing is you're being overconfident about, well, I guess on one side you're overconfident over something that's sort of outside of your control. But another token is just sort of questioning yourself in a way where you can make better decisions, or more like dealing with the outcome. I know one thing I used to do a lot of the time is wanting to deal with worst case scenario. I don't know if you've ever done this, where you feel like, okay, what's the worst case scenario? And the reality is, how often, you should doubt yourself. You should doubt yourself about doubting yourself. And that's really where the superpower comes in. The superpower of having self-doubt is being able to self-doubt your own self-doubt. I know that's crazy, right? Because if you can sort of, if you feel bad about yourself, or you feel stupid or whatever, right? And you just say, am I really stupid? Am I really you're feeling unattractive, you feel ugly, and then you ask yourself a question, you doubt yourself again. Am I really unattractive? Am I really, you ask these questions, and then you just start thinking, this is sort of a Tony Robbins thing, which I heard a long time ago, where your life is determined by the quality of your questions. But the problem is when I first heard that years ago, I didn't know how to use it. I didn't understand, like, okay, what questions do I ask myself? It wasn't until I came across Mark Manson's writing that I sort of understood how to apply it a little bit better. I'm actually connecting the dots right now as I talk to you. And a lot of why I make these videos is because I connect these dots, I connect these ideas, and they get me excited. Self-doubt is a superpower because all you have to do is doubt your own self-doubt. And if you continue to do that, it's like, two negatives make a positive, at least with electrical charges and all. I don't even know if it's correct. But again, I'm rambling now. It's being able to use that self-doubt to your advantage, right? To sniff out your own bullshit, or better yet, to sniff out your own bullshit. So that way you can make a better decision. Because the thing is like worst case scenario, that's where I was before I lost my tangent again. When you think about worst case scenario, you gotta ask yourself, how often does worst case scenario happen? Will worst case scenario happen? Can I deal with worst case scenario? the thing to realize when it, just to give a pragmatic approach about worst case scenario can happen, but it's unlikely to. Like just an example, like the stock market, like I think right now Intel's like at $18 or whatever. I don't know what it is, but let's just say it's $18. It's probably never going to go below $5. If you understand anything about stocks, that's probably a bad analogy. But worst case scenario is it's more like next worst case scenario, right? Or like what's most likely going to happen. It's more like what you can lift, what you're trying to go for, and what's the worst case, not the worst case, but the next worst case scenario. Because the worst case scenario is you slip and fall and you crack your back and you're paralyzed.